Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and today we're going to be talking about vetting business deals as technology professionals. So this is an important concept. Sadly, not enough technology professionals think about, but it really does matter for your profession and for your business and for the rest of it. So basically, when we're talking about vetting business deals, what I'm talking about here is actually taking a look at the business deal and seeing if it in fact makes sense for you. Right? So a lot of technology people, you go out into the world and you get very tunnel visioned about what projects you will take or what you think you will find acceptable. So you go out and you say, I want to make $20,000 off of this project, or I want to make $100,000 a year, or I want this, or I want that, or I want the other thing. And all you're looking at is a very small component of the transaction. Basically what you look at is, what does the person want out of me? So do they want me to program an app? Do they want me to build infrastructure? What is that? And then how much are they basically willing to pay me for? Are they willing to pay me 100,000, 150, 50, 20, whatever? And do I find that acceptable? Beyond that, you might look at, do I have to move in order to take this job or to take this consulting gig, or a couple of little things like that? How many hours do I have to work? That kind of stuff. But a lot of times, technology professionals don't look any further than that when they're thinking about these proposals that they get, and unfortunately that causes a lot of problems in the long run, because there is a lot more to a successful project than these little things, than how many hours and the cost and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more that goes into it. So the first thing that I want you guys to be thinking about whenever you're going out there to either become an employee, try to get hired somewhere, or to take a business project or to get a client, is to remember this is not a game where the more numbers you have, the better, right? There's this whole thing, people want to send out, 100 resumes, 1,000 resumes. There's this idea, the more is the better. And what you have to realize as a technology professional is you only need a very small number of clients to make yourself very happy. So like with my business now, and why this comes up is I'm going back and forth on a business proposal right now. So for me, I already make money doing YouTube, and I'm looking at ways to expand how I make money outside of YouTube, but I don't need a lot of clients outside of YouTube. I don't need 20 clients outside of YouTube. I don't need 50 clients outside of YouTube. I don't even really need 10 clients outside of YouTube. Realistically, in order to make my life go very well, all I need is 5 clients outside of YouTube. Again, what I personally do, you get paid for very well, and so I don't need a huge number, right? So one of the things to be thinking about is when you're sitting down, you're looking at proposals, is one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, how many of these things do I need? How many of these contracts do I need to close in order to make myself a happy camper? Because so many times, right, people have this idea is I basically have to accept every contract, every proposal I get. As long as it is somewhere in the ballpark of what I find is acceptable, I have to take it. But again, in the technology world, we have to realize is our careers will depend upon relationships in the long run. Now, you guys being 20 or 22 or 25, you guys are still youngins in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that to sound disrespectful, but just realize if you are 25 years old, realize your professional career, just your professional career, is going to last longer than you have currently been alive. Right? So there's this idea right now that you need to get everything possible. But what I want you to start thinking about is your overall career. If you're going to have a 40 or 50 year career, and the way our pension system is going, it's going to get longer and longer. You should be thinking about the long run. You should be thinking about creating relationships that aren't going to last a day or a week or a month, but relationships that will end up lasting you years or even decades. That if you create a good relationship now, you may not see a payoff for another 10 years, but in 10 years, it may be very valuable to you. So the first thing to be thinking about whenever you're going for these business deals is don't just simply take every single business deal that's out there, because the reality is a lot of them will fail for a lot of different reasons. Now, one of the things to be thinking about whenever you get hired for any job, especially if you're going to be a contractor, is you need to be thinking about the scope of work that is outside of your scope of work. Right? So as contractors, we get hired like to put in a computer lab. So if I'm going to get hired to put in a computer lab, I'm going to go in, I'm going to sell them 10, 15, 20, 30 PCs. I might sell them a server, I'll sell them a switch, I'll sell them the cabling and all that. And that is my scope of work, basically building out the technological infrastructure for that computer lab. Here's the thing, what is outside of my scope of work that has to be accomplished for my scope of work to be successful? So there needs to be a room. Now I know that sounds really fucking stupid until you're sitting there and you're dealing with this in real life, but I have been hired for projects, for things like, for labs, where they didn't even know what room they were going to put the lab in. Well, how can my project be successful, no matter how good I am, no matter how good the equipment is, if there's no literal room for me to put the equipment into? So you run into issues where, do they have a room designated for something like a computer lab? Do they have the furniture designated for that computer lab? Do they have electricity going to that room? Do they have cabling? Do they have all these other things that are within the scope of work for the overall computer lab, but are outside of your scope of work? So this is an important thing to realize, because a lot of times, especially in the technology world, again, people get stupid. People get stupid really quick. And the problem is you have users and clients that get stupid, and then you have technology professionals that get greedy, and you have stupid people combined with greedy people, and basically, as I say, the project creators, right? Because you have the stupid people that go in and they buy 20 computers from you, they sign the deposit, they give you a $15,000 check, you're excited because you're making all the money, you come in with your computer lab to do the install, and you're like, well, what room am I supposed to put this in? Oh, yeah, well, see, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. We have to go through a special request system in order to get the room, and although we already signed the contract with you, we don't have the room designated yet, so we're gonna have to figure this out, right? So if you don't have the room, then now this pretty quick, easy, good money project may now be dragging on literally for months. Or you go in, and I've had this happen. You have all the equipment, you did all your work, you were just being really, really quick, everything's built, everything's there, you've just got to go in, you've got to install it, you'll knock it out in a day. You walk into the facility and there's no furniture. You're like, where's the furniture? Oh, well, there's been an issue with the furniture. So one thing, whenever you're dealing with vetting business deals, is not just to simply worry about your scope of work. So your scope of work is what we've talked about. You have to be thinking about all of these other things and make sure that these other things will be accomplished, and that you're confident that they will get accomplished. Again, when you think about things like cabling, and it's not just that the client says that it will get done, but do you feel confident it will get done? So again, with buildings, most people are still doing network cabling. So you go into a facility and you say, okay, I'm going to deploy 20 computers here. You need to have so many cable drops. Do you want us to do it, or are you going to have somebody else do it? Now here's what you have to be careful about, right? Because if your client is sitting there and goes, you know what, I want to save some money, my brother runs a cabling company, and therefore I can get his company to do this relatively inexpensively. So I'm going to have my brother's company do the cabling, and then you'll come in afterwards. Now, if you listen to that, basically what that person is saying is they're trying to get a deal. Hey, that's understandable, it's business. But they are going to be using somebody that is reputable for cabling. So again, they have some kind of associate, they have some kind of relationship where they can get cabling done for less expensive than you could charge, right? Okay, we grumble, we bitch, we whine, we moan, because that's profit we're not getting, but okay, fine, right? You know, I'm not going to kill a deal over that. On the other hand, if the person is sitting there and they're looking at the cabling bill and they say, well, it doesn't seem as if cabling should be so difficult. I'm just going to cable myself and then you can come in afterwards, right? No. That is something to kill a deal over, right? Because basically what the person is being is they're being so effing cheap that they're trying to save money in ways that they don't necessarily know how to do the things. Again, if you've ever gone in behind a non-professional cabling job, it is amazing how easy it is to screw up cabling. Well, I don't know if it's easy to screw up cabling. I've just been behind some horrible, horrible cabling jobs where you basically have to end up ripping out all of the panels and basically repunching things down because people punch down cables all willy-nilly. It is amazingly horrific, and the problem is, right? So that person wants to save money, so they're going to do it themselves. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They just figure they can do it cheaper than you. They go in, they screw around, they do the cabling incorrectly. Well, surprise, surprise, you walk in, the cabling's not done correctly, therefore you can't set up your infrastructure properly, so you have to go in behind them and fix their work. Well, here's the thing. You go in behind them to fix their work, you're now charging them the billable hours. Well, but they don't want to pay billable hours because they were trying to save money on this. But you can't finish your project unless the network is working how it's supposed to, and then you run into this mess where this stupid piece of crap decided that they were going to try to save money by doing work that they had no idea how to do. You go in behind, you have to fix their work, but then when you try to bill them for fixing their work, then it all goes to hell. And so this is one of those things you have to be thinking about, is what is the scope of work outside of your particular scope of work that needs to be done for the project. And if that is not being thought about, then that's one of the things where you have to tell the client either just, hey, you client, you have to figure it out before I do this work, or that you walk away. This is very important for me right now, right? Because again, me being Eli the computer guy, one of the greatest things is simply being me is apparently valuable, right? That's awesome. I have the greatest job in the world. But it is. Me sitting in front and talking in front of a video camera or doing other basically talky stuff is very valuable. And so I can get paid a lot of money doing this. One of the issues, and this is one of the issues that comes up in the real world though, is when I have some people that approach me about hiring me, one of the things that they don't think about is all the ancillary things that are required beyond my fee. Right? So they come up to me and they say, Eli, we're going to pay you X, Y, or Z in order to do whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's great. But here's the question. Do you have the money for everything else that's required to make this happen? So if somebody hires me to create video content, do they have cameras? Do they have a video crew? Do they have an editor that's going to edit it in the way that they want it edited? Beyond that, once they have the final product, so let's say I create a video for them, it looks beautiful, it looks wonderful, and then it's just a video file. Are they planning to put it on YouTube? Are they planning to put it behind a paywall? Are they planning to send it out on flash drives? Because it's amazing. And like, I know this sounds stupid, but it is true, where like, even for something like having me create videos for companies, so many people think that that's like the end game. Eli's gonna create a video for us. And it's like, yeah, okay, but fine, cool. How are you gonna distribute that video? Oh, well, we'll figure it out. It's like, no, right? Because what you have to be thinking about whenever you do these projects, right, is your reputation is the most important thing in the world. Again, we talk about relationships. Relationships are what's really important to you for making money and being successful at the end of the day. And so your reputation is important. So here's the thing. You don't want your reputation marred by failed projects. So that's one of the problems with technology professionals is, again, they only look at the money that they're getting paid. They only look at whether they do what the contract stated. So they say, I did what the contract stated. I got paid what I was supposed to get paid. Winner! But if the project fails because of all of these other things that didn't happen, even if they're outside of your control, then you can basically, then what happens with your reputation is what people know is when you got hired for a project, you were hired for a project and the project failed. Now again, remember what you have to realize about people, even business people, even really smart people, is we all distill things down to its simplest form. That person was hired to do a project, the project failed. That person was hired to do another project, that project failed. That person was hired to do another project, that project failed. That person can't complete projects, right? That's what it, and you're like, well, no, but I have a reason, Eli. Let me tell you the reason. And here's the thing, people will be nice, maybe they'll be polite to you, maybe they'll half-heartedly hear what you're saying, but they don't care. What they know is your reputation is when you get hired for something, most of the time the project doesn't succeed, and therefore what they care about is they want to pay money for a successful project. If they know when you get hired for a project, most of the time it doesn't succeed, then they're not going to hire you, right? Because they want a successful project. So you have to be thinking outside of the scope. You have to be thinking about all of these other things. Like, again, you go in there, who is going, not just is the cabling going to be done, who is the cabling going to be done by? If the cabling isn't done properly, is it written into the contract that you will get paid your hourly rate to fix it? How is that dealt with? If you go to a premises to install systems and the furniture is not there, how do you get compensated for that? You come with all of your equipment, the furniture is not there, so you can't set up the equipment. Do you get a minimum of 2 billable hours? Do you get a minimum of 1 day's work? Do you not put anything in and you get nothing? at least get your 2 billable hours, right? These are some of the things that you have to be thinking about, again, in order to make sure that the project succeeds. Now, beyond the simple thing of, what is your scope, and then outside of your scope, one of the questions you also have to be asking yourself is, does your personality mesh with the culture of the client or the company that is going to hire you? Now, this is a very big deal. Again, it's one of the reasons I have problems with employees, because how I deal with people is different than how most people deal with people, right? So when I had my business clients, most of my business clients, my most valuable business clients, were like hyper type A personality bastards. And they were just vicious. They knew how they got paid. They wanted to get paid as much as possible. When they hired you, basically, the requirement was you do the job. If you don't do the job, you're going to get your ass handed to you. And for me, I found that to be a very easy environment to work in. I walked in, they gave me crap. Most of the crap goes over my head, so it doesn't bother me that much. I make sure all the systems work. They're happy the systems work, they write a check, and away we go, right? So basically, in that environment, it was very good for me. So basically, I go in, I know what's expected of me, I know they're gonna give me crap, but I don't care about it. But one of the things that you have to be thinking about is, what culture do you wanna work within? Because within that culture, you'll have a lot of unstated rules, you'll have a lot of unstated policies, you'll have a lot of unstated expectations that if you don't deal with properly, will cause all kinds of issues. So again, if you go into like one of these type A personalities that I used to deal with, they may scream at you, but the expectation is you're still gonna get the work done, right? If they scream at you and they're like, ah, and then you run out the door, then that's not gonna go good for you. So the question is what is the culture, and how do you feel comfortable in the culture? Now, one of the only deals that I've actually had Crater doing this whole Everyman IT or EliTheComputerGuy.com thing is basically I got flown out, I got the red carpet treatment, I thought everything was going great, right? Basically the company said, we absolutely love your work, you're wonderful, you're great, so on and so forth, we want you to come out and we're gonna make wonderful things happen. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So I got flown out, I get the red carpet treatment, it was really great. But the weird thing for me is that I found, and this is something to think about with how you deal with people, and especially with your business, is basically what I found is once I got there and started dealing with the people, that essentially what the company wanted me to be is fundamentally an employee. So instead of being a contractor, instead of being a personality, instead of this being something symbiotic to what I was doing, what was supposed to happen, I was supposed to get flown out, see how amazing everything they had was, and then essentially get folded in as an employee. And the reason that particular deal cratered is, arrogant or not, I'm just not an employee mindset. Right? I can't deal with the employee mindset, and for me, I always want to be building something. Anything that I'm going to be doing should be building what I'm doing. I'm building the Eli, the computer guy, whatever, business, right? And so going there, although they offered a lot of money and the rest of it, the fact that it was all building their company really just turned me off from the whole thing. And that's something to be thinking about whenever you go to do any of these projects, is are you going to be personally motivated to do the work? Again, if you looked at that particular deal that cratered, the work that they offered me, what they asked me to do, was very easy to do. The amount of money they were willing to give me was very generous, but that was only 2 components. The rest of the components, building my own brand, where I fit into things, that completely fell in on itself. And so that's one of the things that you have to be thinking about is how does your personality mesh with the company? Again, is the company or the client that's hiring you, do they basically want you to be a cog in the machine? Or do they want you to be free thinking and figuring things out? Are they the type of company to say, we're going to pay you $500 per widget you create? Or are they the type of company to say, we're going to pay you $5,000 a month to do what you do best? And you look at them, you go, what do I do best? They say, you know it. And you're like, all right. And so this is something to be thinking about, because so many times why projects fail and these business deals fail is because the expectations and the culture of the client and the business don't mesh with you, and then you just kind of get tired and pissy. Again, I had a really good job once. I had a really good job in an enterprise world where I got to work on really high-tech equipment back in the day. It's now obsolete, but back in the day, it was really high tech, right? So I got to come in, I got to play with all this stuff. It was amazing. Well, the problem was, it was amazing about an hour a day, right? Because how everything was set up, this was a real enterprise world. And again, in a real enterprise world, you should not be dealing with break-fix issues every 30 seconds. So it was a real enterprise world. It was built stable and solid from the ground up. They had maintenance agreements, you know, from day one. It was built by professionals from day one. So it was a really stable, wonderful environment. And so the issue was, is I would go in and I would do my hour of work a day. And then for the next 8 hours, I would basically just sit there and surf the internet or play video games, right? And here was the thing. I didn't get gigged on this. Like, the global vice president would walk by and be like, oh, look, you got a high score, right? Nobody cared, right? Because I was getting paid for my hour of work a day. Well, again, my problem with that particular business is, you know, I'm not saying I want to kill myself every minute for 8 hours a day, but, you know, I'm a technology professional for a reason. Literally doing 1 hour of work and then twiddling my thumbs is not something that I really want to do. And so this is something you should be thinking about, is, again, that personal, that culture. Does your personality mesh? Now, there are other people out there that think, you know, playing video games for a decent salary, 7 hours a day, sounds wonderful. And so you might be good for that environment. Again, this is important. Like, I have friends who contract in the government world. So the government world, in its brilliance, decided a long time ago, in order to not be screwed by contractors, that the government, at least for the U.S., would mandate the exact type of employees that companies were required to retain in order to get contracts. So if you're going to build a data center for NSA or DOE or something like that, basically what the government says is you need these certain types of employees. So you need 1 security professional, and you need 3 network professionals, and you need 5 system administrators, blah, 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 right? Well, I have buddies that work in the system, and they said one of the most frustrating things is the reality is that the government stipulates types of employees that most of the time the project doesn't actually need. So again, I have friends who work in the security world, and again, this is why I get so snarky in the security world so many times, and many of my friends who get paid an absolute crap ton of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, again, basically sit there playing their iPad games all day, because the reality is good system administrators should build good security into the infrastructure from day one. So the company hired good system administrators who were doing their job. So the security professional, you know, there's not a lot of work for the security professional if the system administrators are doing what the hell they're supposed to in the beginning. So basically they sit there making a lot of money just sitting there playing video games. Now here's the thing. If you like just sitting there playing video games, that is something that you should think about. On the other hand, again, I have friends in there that lose their damn mind. I mean, can you imagine going into work? Basically, again, being in an office park. You're basically just in an office building 8 or 9 hours a day, literally with 0 work to do. That can really drive you nuts. So that's one of the things you have to be thinking about. Again, whenever you take these jobs, just because the job description sounds really good doesn't mean that's actually what you're going to be doing. And so what you don't want to have happen is basically, as I've said, is you don't want your job, or you don't want the project to crater. If you go in and you're working the job for 2 months and you literally can't stand it, it literally drives you up the damn wall, and then you quit. The problem is now not only do you have an issue with that contracting company, because now you're seen as somebody that will quit after 2 months, but then also when you go to get hired by somebody else, they're going to look at your resume and they're going to wonder what happened here. And now you can come up with all the excuses in the world. Well, it was a crappy job, well, it was boring, blah, blah. What I'm going to see as a potential employer is that you accepted a job that you only stayed in for 2 months. Do I want to hire that person? If I have 20 decent resumes in front of me, do I want to hire the person that accepted a job but then left after 2 months? Because the question I then have to ask myself is this person going to accept this job and they decide it's not for them, right? So if I've got 19 other resumes, again, funk, right? And so that's what you have to be thinking about, is vetting deals before they actually happen. With the current deal negotiation that I'm in now, I just sent them an email, and literally in the email, my quote to them is I would rather say no to a good deal than yes to a deal that craters. Right? Because good deals come along all the time. Again, you go out there, you be a professional, you're networking, you're schmoozing, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Deals come through. I get deals probably about once a week coming through that I take a look at, right? So I would rather say no to a good deal, right? Because if I say no to a good deal, hey, no harm, no foul, right? There's no, if they take that negatively, that's their problem, right? You know, we get to say no to deals. But if I say yes to a deal that fails, then that's a whole bunch of problem on my reputation. Basically what that means is I didn't vet the project properly beforehand. Then it affects my reputation, especially in a small technology world. That can really cause issues, right? Again, in the technology world, I know you guys see me sometimes, you think I'm snarky and you think I'm arrogant, and oh my god, you guys have so many opinions on what my personality is, right? And fine, whatever. They're not true, but fine. Even if they are true, what you have to realize is all those opinions about my personality don't matter as long as a project succeeds, right? I can be snarky, I can be an asshole, I can be an asshat, I can be a douche, I can be arrogant, I can be all of these things in the business world as long as the client or the boss knows that when they hire me, the project gets completed. If they know that, they'll overlook a whole bunch of other things. If they think they're going to hire me and the project fails, then that's going to be really, really, really bad. And again, one of the things you guys don't think about, and I know I've been talking with you guys about this in Silicon Trailer when I've had sit-down meetings, is one of the things new people really don't understand is how many conversations happen when you're not around. How many conversations are happening between people that you don't even know exist yet? So again, you go in, you work for a client, the project craters. Not only is that client going to be pissed at you and pissed at the situation, even if it's their fault, they're still pissed because the project failed, but beyond that, they're going to go and have a beer with their buddy who owns another company. Again, remember, you have to think about our peer groups. You know, business owners, decision makers, are their own peer group. We hang out with each other. We drink beer. We have parties, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes on that employees don't realize. And so you're sitting there. And again, if I go to a party, if I go to a social event with 30 other business owners, and the thing that is at the top of my mind is that this infrastructure project just failed, guess what? When I start drinking a couple of beers, what do you think I'm going to be talking about to everybody I said, hey man, how's that infrastructure project you're going? Oh, dude, man, I hired this company. Oh, have you heard of this company? Yeah, I heard about that company. I thought they were pretty good. Oh, man, let me tell you, I don't know, maybe they're good for somebody else. For me, they totally screwed the pooch. Really? I was thinking about hiring them. Man, hey, do what you want to do. I regret that I did. Right? So these conversations are happening on in the background. You don't even know it. So again, the problem with a lot of you guys is you're getting rejected from jobs and you're failing before the proposal even happens. Right? You're failing, a lot of people, before you even know that that potential client exists. So by the time you actually go up to start talking with them, they already know what your reputation is, if it's a bad one, and they're like, hey, no matter what they say to you, no matter how nice and friendly and all that kind of stuff, it's still not going to go anywhere. So that's one of the things to be thinking about too with this whole thing with vetting business deals, is to realize, again, the overall ramifications of if it fails, especially beyond, again, you're like, well, I got my $20,000 profit, I'm good. Yeah, but how much more damage are you doing to yourself? Now, the final thing with vetting deals, and this becomes a bigger deal as you start to become more prominent, when you start to become somebody like me, right, is you start to get to the point where people start giving you the red carpet treatment, and they start flying you out, and they start paying you decent money, simply in order to take a look at a deal, which is a really weird world for me that I'm in now. But where people actually pay me money, checks, essentially to have a sit-down conversation with them about what their deal is, and whether I would be interested in it, truly. So you get paid, you fly out, you stay at the hotel room, you go and you talk about the deal. Now, one of the issues that you run into with this is a lot of times, again, you can run into the problem where because they've already paid money, and again, $1,000 or more, one of these deals cost $3,000 for me to sit at a table once. Just sit at the table. And the thing is, like, I may come off as a little crass sometimes, but when people are spending $1,000, $3,000 literally just to have you sit at the table with them and hear their offer, whether it's meaningful, whether they mean to or not, there is a bit of manipulation there. They have already put the money on the table. So although you're going to hear them out, and the idea is you can say yes or you can say no, because they've already paid that money, you have a real tendency to try to want to say yes, right? It kind of pushes the thumb down on the scale for saying yes, because you don't want a company to spend that much money to fly you out and then say no. That seems kind of dickish, right? But again, in the real technology world, sometimes you do need to be a little dickish, because here's the thing. If they spend money to fly you out and do all this stuff, and you're sitting down and you realize that what they're asking you're not going to be able to fulfill, again, the scopes of work outside of what's going on, you already know the project is going to fail. So one of the things you have to think about, again, in business, is cutting losses. Not just cutting your losses sometimes, but cutting other people's losses. So they fly you out, they've already paid the money. Now here's the thing, if you get manipulated into saying yes, simply because you feel bad that they've already spent money, then they're going to start dumping more money into you, tens of thousands of dollars. Well, here's the thing, it's really easy to write off $1,000 or even $3,000. Once you start putting tens of thousands of dollars into a project, it gets progressively harder to be able to write that off. But if you're sitting down at the table and that initial meeting, you already know the project's gonna fail, why are you going to allow it to continue? Right? It's really easy just to fall into that trap. These people have already paid. Look at what they're doing for me. This is wonderful. They're already paying just to have me sit here. Of course I'm gonna do this project. But you already know there's issues. Again, if you're a professional and you've gotten to this point, it means you're good enough to be able to think pretty quickly. You already know there's going to be issues. So if you allow that deal to go through, that is your professional fault for allowing that deal to go through when you know it's going to fail in the future. So one of the things to do is, again, even if they have paid for you, is to be able to say, you know what? I really appreciate this offer. I really appreciate being able to come out to meet you. Here is the issues that I see, and this is why I can't take the deal this time. So I had one deal. Again, I got flown out and all that. Got treated really well. They paid for me to come out. But when I sat there, basically I was dealing with a company. I was supposed to be a spokesman for the company. And then the more I talked with the company, and I mean, they were going to pay me a large amount of money. Lot of money. They were going to pay me like mortgage payment on the condo in South Beach type money. Good money, right? But then I sat down and I started looking at what they were doing, and being a professional, what I saw when I was talking to them, it was like, you need a really high quality CIO. So they're a technology company, they were growing. Again, we're in a weird flux time for technology. So the people that were running it really understood how technology worked up to that point. But again, we're at this inflection point where technology is changing, and so for their company to really be successful, what they need to do is they need to start basically embracing cloud. They need to start embracing Internet of Things. They need to start embracing managed services, this kind of stuff, which they didn't have a lot of expertise in. And so I'm sitting there, and so what they wanted me to do is to come on board and get paid a lot of money to basically do advertising, spokesmanship, and all that kind of stuff for them. But I sat there and I looked at them, I looked at their company and said, yeah, but your company right now fundamentally needs a top quality CIO. I know, because I could do that work. I don't want to do the work. I like being a YouTube star. I don't want to be a CIO. But when I sat there and I was talking with them, what I realized with that company is what they needed is they needed to basically take the money that they were going to pay me with all that ancillary, not just my scope, but also the rest of the scope to make it work. And it was like, you need to take this money and get a really good CIO. Once you've gotten that good CIO, once you have that CIO and he's building out your infrastructure for you, and he's building out your managed services for you, and he's building out your cloud architecture for you, once you've gotten down that path, then we can come back and then we can talk and then I can be your spokesperson. But if you've got this amount of money and you can either pay for a spokesperson or you can pay for CIO, I am telling you as a professional, go pay for that CIO. It'll just simply fundamentally do you better in the long run. Now when you do that, what that shows the person is that you actually understand what's going on in their business, because again, you sit there and you talk with them. You don't just spout off of the mouth, but you say, you know, this is what I see, these are the issues I see, so on and so forth. But the other thing too is, since you say no to the deal right then, the thing is that you haven't actually caused a problem. You haven't cratered anything. So again, the company gets to where it needs to be, you know, that outside scope of work, and then I can come back in a year or 2 or 3 and try to pick up where we were. I would rather come back in 3 years, you know, wait on that chunk of money for 3 years, and then be a spokesman for a company that I know is stable, that I know is solid, that I know is gonna rock into the future, versus take all that money now and basically in the back of my head be thinking, I'm not really sure if these guys are gonna be around for another 2 years because I'm taking all the money that should be going off to that CIO, right? So this is, again, that's one of those things that you should be thinking about. Is it's very easy, especially in the technology world, you get wined, you get dined, you get flown out places, you get put in amazing hotels, and it's so easy to focus on that irrelevant crap versus the actual deal, versus the actual culture, versus the scope of work. You know, you get so I mean, it is. You get dazzled by just people being so damn nice to you. Again, when you get the red carpet treatment, you are never gonna feel that good again in your life. It is just an amazing feeling when everybody's just like, we know who you are, you're amazing. You're like, wow, I am so cool, aren't I, right? But that's not what you do for a living. That's not how you get paid. You're not gonna get paid because everybody loves you. You're gonna get paid for getting the project done. Now the final thing that I'll say is, again, with this whole thing with whining and dining, red carpet treatment, and people talking to you and people making you feel so special and all that, one of the things that I will say is always make sure you give time to let ideas stew in your head before you get back to people. This is a big problem for both sides of business deals, is people get so excited, they get so excited about the deal that they stop focusing on what is required to make the deal actually successful, and then they spin themselves up into this huge ball of excitement, and everybody agrees on the deal, and contracts are signed and checks are sent back and forth, and everybody is so excited they completely skip, again, whether or not the deal makes sense. So if you're going to be doing these business deals, again, real business deals, and this is one of the reasons why I tell you guys you should be advertising all the time, is that real business deals take 2 to 3 months to close. Okay? I mean, the final closing is you sign a couple of contracts, you know, again, a check goes back and forth, a couple of checks get cashed, it's done. The actual closing of a deal can be done in about 5 minutes, right? But there is this dance, and you should be dancing for about 2 to 3 months before the deal gets closed. And when you're doing the dance, you're trying to figure out all these things. Again, scope of work, culture, do they actually have the money? Again, one of the issues that you run into in the business world is a lot of times you're talking to decision makers that aren't actually final decision makers. So you're talking about all this stuff, you're getting excited, you're planning your vacation off the money you're going to make off of this, and what you don't realize is that this person can make the decision if the person above them decides to cut the check. Right? So you basically have to sit there and you have to figure out all of these things. So one of the things I would say with all the communication whenever you're going to be doing business deals is don't get back to people right away. Right? I know in the modern world, the world of Amazon, the world of Netflix, the world of instant communication, we really have this idea that we have to get back to people with answers immediately. Immediately. If I get back to a person an hour after they email me, oh, the deal's just done. Now again, if you're just doing a simple break-fix work order for somebody's printer in their home, by all means, get back to them as soon as possible, right? But again, we're talking about big deals. We're talking about $10,000 deals, $100,000 deals. We're talking about business. We're not talking about little crappy-ass work orders, right? Give it some time. Think about it. They send you a nice long-winded email. Read the nice long-winded email, and then just put it, star it or flag it or whatever, and put it off into its corner, and just think about it for a day. right? Don't respond at all. Give it 24 hours and then go back and reread it. And then go, and while you're reading it, look at any points in the email that you're curious about, or look at any points in the email that makes you concerned, right? Little things like who is actually talking to you. This is one thing people don't do enough, right? When a business deal is happening, look at that little signature line and basically Google search the person that's talking to you. Go to their LinkedIn account and see who the hell they are. Are they some 22-year-old social media manager, or are they a 50-year-old vice president of what they do, right? I mean, one of the things you'll be surprised about is sometimes you're talking directly to the CEO for deals, and other times you're just talking to a minion. So simply going back and doing the research. Who am I actually talking to? And then once you realize who you're talking to, then you start changing how you have a conversation with them based on who they are. So if they're a CEO, you can get to brass tacks a hell of a lot more quickly than if they're like the social media manager or whatever. You know, if they are the office manager, there's going to be a different way of doing that business deal than if they're the CEO or if they're the vice president. So go back, do the research on who you're talking to. Do the research on who the company is. What is the company? Is this actually a large company? Is this a small company? Is this a small company that makes a crap ton of money? Again, I had clients of mine, the new way of doing companies with subcontractors is amazing, where you have a multi-million-dollar company with 5 employees because they subcontract out everything. So things to be looking at and researching there so that you have a better idea of what you're walking into. Because again, the more you can converse with them, the more you can understand what their point of view is, the more you can give them your point of view, the easier it will be. If you're going into a law firm and it's very successful and it's been written up in ink or the Fortune 500 or whatever, then you know they probably have a pretty good budget going on. If it's a local, Social Security disability law firm, maybe they have less of a budget going on. These are some of the things that you should be thinking about. So again, whenever you're doing the communication, don't think about getting back to people immediately or even within a day or 2 or 3. I would say normally with real business deal emails, I normally let it stew about 72 hours because I don't want to say anything incorrectly. It is better to say nothing at all. It is better to say no than to say things that you're not going to stand behind or to agree to something that, again, you're also not going to stand behind. Basically, again, our reputation is all about how valuable is our word. If we say something is going to happen, is it going to happen? If the answer is yes, again, in the long run, you're going to do well in this field. If the answer is, right? It's not going to go good. It's not going to go good. So I just want to talk to you guys today about the whole idea of vetting business deals because again, it's one of those things that I had to go through back in the day, figuring all this stuff out, and it really is just one of those things where if you find the businesses with cultures that fit yours, with a mentality that fits yours, everything is gonna go great. Everything is gonna go wonderful. If you start dealing with cultures and all that, where it's just diametrically opposed to what you're doing, then it just doesn't go well. And again, if you just sit down, I talk about the grind all the time. You should just be grinding away at what you're good at. If you grind away at what you're good at, then you're just going to come up with this huge portfolio of successful projects, and people are going to come to you because they know you're the person to come to. If you're messing around with all this stupid crap because you accept all these crappy deals just because they're worth money, it's just not going to go well. It's just not going to go well. So there we go. There are some thoughts on vetting business deals, but really do. It is about more than the contract. It is about more than how much you're going to get paid. Look at the scopes outside of your contract. Look at the culture. Make sure you take time to really think about what you're going to do. Make sure you write things in the contract, the state. If the office furniture is not set up when you get there to install a computer lab, what happens? Do you get to build them, right? These are some of the stuff to think about. So yes, I'm going through a vetting process right now. Could be really cool. And that's what's hard. like with some of these vetting processes, because like it could be really cool. Like this one could be really exciting. Hopefully do like a documentary series. It's with a very reputable company, seems to be a very profitable company, technology company, and so they want to create content to basically help IT decision makers make decisions better. So again, on paper, it seems to fit. They sent me a really wacky video in order to say hi. So that was a nice thing. It shows that they're wacky. It shows they think out of the box. So they sent that, and then I emailed back to them, and we kind of been going emailing back and forth. But the issue is again, everything right now seems great. Everything seems like, wow, of course I should say yes to these people. But it's too easy to say yes. I think that's one of the things that I always tell you guys in business is be very careful about anything that's easy. Right? The easier something is, the more likely is that is the wrong answer. The harder it is, the more likely it is it's the right answer. Again, why we get paid money is because we do what's hard. Right? If what we did was easy, we'd be getting paid $8 an hour like the people flipping hamburgers, right? The reason we make a lot of money is because we do the hard things. And so when anything happens is you have to be very careful about when things seem too easy. Because a lot of times when things seem too easy, you say yes, and then what you don't realize is all the stuff you didn't know. So we're going back and forth on this, and so it should be interesting. It should be cool. But again, like I say, it'll be that long term. They reach out to me, I get back to them. They reach out to me, I get back to them. If it goes well, then we meet at some point. Blah 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 blah. Again, overall, takes about 3 months. But again, the thing to think about with projects or clients or any of that is how many of them do you need? I know when you're brand new as a consultant, I know when you're brand new in the field, you want to get deals done as quickly as possible. I need to get these deals done. I need the more deals, the more money. You're going to get to that point where you're going to realize that you don't want every deal. Right? How many clients do you really need? For me, again, outside of YouTube, I only need 5. I've already got one. There's another one that all I have to do is say yes to. So I mean, I only have 3 more spots at all. Like that's it. So I can be really picky and make sure that whoever I go with is again, it's just easy. When you do work, and that's the important thing to understand as a technology professional. We make magic. Why it seems like really good technicians make magic, and why it seems as if we get paid for doing almost nothing, is because we're so happy to do it. We walk in the door, we are smiling, we are energetic, we are excited, we have internal motivation, and we just do it. We don't sit there and work on a server for 20 hours at a time because the boss is going to scream at us if we don't. We work on that server because, darn it, we want to see what the hell this server does when it's up and running, right? You got to be excited, you got to be motivated. So if you take things simply on the paycheck, if you take things simply on a lot of what you think you accept proposals for, it's probably not going to go well for you. Again, you get paid really, really well, and I know this. You get paid well, and you go into an environment where you twiddle your fingers for 7 hours a day. It sucks. Right? So there you go. Things to think about. So we are here officially right now. I'm taping this in West Yellowstone. I have not seen a bear yet. I'm very happy. As I've been talking to you guys about, we've been in Yellowstone right now about a week and a half, and my wife is scared to death of bears because there are grizzly bears around here, and they do eat people. Like, haha, no, they actually found like half a body of somebody like a month ago. So my wife is like scared crapless of bears. I wasn't really too worried about bears, but she's so scared. But I have to say, we have not seen any bears yet. So that is a good thing. The weather is cold. I do have to say the weather is cold. When we first started this whole travel trailer thing, I kind of had the idea that it was going to be endless summer. Again, how the real world works out versus how you think it's going to work out. So when we started this whole travel trailer thing, I had the idea it was going to basically be like endless summer. We were going to go down south, it was going to be nice and warm and hot, and then we were just going to be in 80, 90 degree temperature for the rest of our lives, right? Well, ironically, how it's kind of worked out this year is we've kind of been in like endless early spring. So it's right now, it's September 3rd or 4th right now, and it's 42 degrees during the day. You wake up, there's frost in the ground in September. So yeah, somebody was asking me like why I was wearing a coat at this point. Is it really that cold? And yeah, I'm wearing a sweater, and I'm wearing a coat, and I'm wearing my hat on like September 4th. Because yes, in fact, it is actually that cold up here in Yellowstone. I guess stuff in Yellowstone starts closing about the end of September, and they can even get snow now. I was just up at a resort. We'll talk about this later. I was up at a resort yesterday, meeting with somebody for Silicon Trailer. And like at the top of the mountain there, and it's only about an hour away. And they say most of the time in the summer, all the snow doesn't melt off till something like July. So, yeah, the best laid plans. I had this idea. I was going to be in shorts all the time. I was going to be getting a tan. And yeah, no, this entire... I think I have to say we've now been on the road for almost 6 months, and I would be surprised if we've had 2 weeks of over 85 degree weather. 14 days. I would be surprised at this point if I have seen 14 days that were over 85 out of 6 months. And we've probably had about 3 or 4 months of, sub 60 degree weather. Oh well, there you go. It's doing well for Tonto. Health-wise, Tonto is feeling pretty good. He's got the big old cancer on his head now. That thing is just massive. But the cold weather is working for him. So yeah, we're just gonna keep going to cold places. What are you gonna do? But anyways, I think that is my little spiel for the day. Go back, have a little lunch, figure out what I'm gonna do. So just something to think about again. Vet your business deals. Think about them long and hard. I know money is tempting. I know. Especially, again, we're not talking about $100 here. We're ain't talking about $200 here. When you got 10,000, 20,000 more, a lot more, 100,000 on the table, and I know it's hard. And we've had to walk away. $100,000+ deals. But the question is again, think about the long run. One of the biggest problems I see with professionals or people trying to move in the professionalism nowadays is they're so focused on how much they're going to make this year or next year or 2 years from now. One of the things that really, for anybody, whether you're a technology professional, any kind of professional, what I really want you guys to start thinking about is start thinking about your income on the decade time frame. Don't think about how much you get paid per hour. Don't think about how much you get paid per week. Don't think about how much you get paid per month or even per year. Start thinking about how much you get paid per decade. Because the longer you can stretch out the concept of what your payday is, how long you get paid for, the more money, again, like I say, you'll make at the end of the day. If you take a lot of bad deals and you ruin your reputation, or if you take bad jobs that don't give you experience, right? Although that may pay you now, that is going to be detrimental to you in 5 years from now. If you always try to go for jobs, if you always try to go for deals that are of high quality for your professional development, again, don't think so much about money, especially as technology professionals. Think about what is good for your professional development. I talked with somebody about this before. They were going into, you can make $60,000 a year as a help desk person, seen this, or you can make $40,000 a year as a systems administrator. Okay, this year, obviously, you lose money. But think about it 5 years from now. If you're still a help desk person 5 years from now, how much money do you really think you're going to make? How much do you think you're really worth? Okay, maybe you're 65 or 70,000. I was surprised to find anybody help desk people making 60 grand a year. But anyways, you may go up a little bit. If you're a systems administrator, you may have to go down for money now. But again, in 10 years, where are you going to be? Right? If you're a help desk technician, in 5 years, you're probably still going to be a help desk technician. Maybe you might be a help desk manager. If you go for a system administrator, in a decade, it's very reasonable to think you can be a CIO if you really want to go for it. Right? And so these are some of the things to be thinking about with the deals. Don't think so much on that small time frame. And again, also just think about companies and deals you're going to be excited about. So many people I see, they get these jobs that just wear them out. They're just crushed. You know, you go to a job, it's just very stressful. Then you have a 2-hour commute. How many people out there actually commute 1 hour each way? So you get home at the end of the day and you're just fried. You're doing work that really isn't significant. The job you have really isn't going to move your career forward very much. And when you get home at the end of the day, you can't even think about studying for anything, whether it's MCSE or VMware or Docker or any of that, because your mind is fried. Do you want to do that, or do you want to take a job or a contract where you're actually learning more, that you enjoy being there? You know, when your 8-hour shift comes up, or do you immediately want to run home, or are you looking at your watch going, oh crap, I've been working for 10 hours today? Right? Some of the things to be thinking about, because yeah, the more you think about this, because that's the whole deal, like, it's too easy to say yes. It's so easy to say yes, but that yes will have a year ramification or more, right? That deal is in front of you. It's so easy to say yes, but as soon as you've said yes, you're now locked into that. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. Things to think about. And again, I talk to you guys about this from the real world, because this is the kind of stuff that I'm going through right now. Again, like I say, if the company is watching this, I have it looks like a really cool company that is coming after me. It looks like really great people to work with. It looks like they have a plan-ish. I think they need to work on the plan, but they have a plan, right? There's a lot of stuff on the table that looks really good. But I am telling you, and again, if they're watching this too, regardless, it'll still take 2 or 3 months to work through the deal process, because we have to make sure that we're on the same page. If I can walk in and I can do what I do and just do it, everything's gonna go awesome. If I go there and they again, and this is what happens with some deals, is sometimes, again, it's so easy to say yes, even on the client side, they say yes to things they don't really mean. Again, like I say, for me, how my brain works, I tell people exactly what I want. Here's the weird thing in the world. Most people in the world don't say exactly what they want. And so everybody assumes when you're direct or forthright that those are things that you can wiggle on. So a lot of times, and again, I've had this with clients or whatever, they'll agree to stuff they actually had no plan on following through with. Again, once I say yes, once that contract is signed, anything not in that contract, all of that soft stuff, that fuzzy stuff, if they don't actually decide to provide it, then things are gonna go bad. And again, at the end of the day, no matter why the project craters, if the project craters, that is your failure. If I accept a project and that project craters, it is my failure. It's not their failure, it's nobody else's failure, it's my failure. Why? Because I walked into a situation I did not fully understand, I did not fully comprehend. I said yes to something and it didn't go through, right? So there we go. And with that, we will call it a day, and I'll see you guys in the next one of these videos.